Welcome to Furious Fiction. I'm Jules Graham, and with me is Mark Mustian. And who are we talking to today?
We're talking to Peter Cameron. He's the author of Coral Glen and a number of other works. And boy, I was amazed by this novel. My wife recommended this to me. I've never heard of Peter Cameron, but after this, I want to read everything he's ever written. So Peter, welcome. And the interesting thing about this novel, to me, among many interesting things, it's set in Great Britain. It's the story of a young woman who comes to work as a caretaker. There are several deaths. There's romance. And it makes me think of British fiction. It has this kind of restrained and understated way about it. And when I first read it, I assumed, well, he has to be British. And then I guess you're sort of British. You went to school in England, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm definitely American, but I lived in England for 2 years when I was growing up, when I was quite young, when I was 8 and 9 years old, and lived in London. And I went to the American school in London, this was back in the late 60s. And it was really a terrific school. They put a lot of emphasis on creativity, and it's actually there where I started creative writing. But then I came back to the United States. But I think the reason that sort of I wrote this novel, which is set in Great Britain, is because that's the kind of fiction I like so much. For a long time, I've been reading work by women British writers, sort of from Virginia Woolf on through the 40s and 50s. And I really admire and get such pleasure from their work. So,
and Peter, I would like to say also, what a delight. I mean, from the most unassuming little cover, that's what I like. I mean, from the first page, it was if you sort of took my hand, walked me through all of those wet areas, off the train station to that house with all the rooms, and you just quietly led the reader through each spot. And I loved the pace of it. It was so quiet and repressed, like there was a corset on my brain when I was trying to read it.
What do they think of you in Britain? I mean, are you kind of an American interloper? How dare he write this, or is it appreciated?
I haven't. No, actually, I mean, I'm disappointed because this book has not been published in Great Britain. My first 4 books were all published in the UK, and then my last 2 books have not been published there. So it's been a while since I've been published in Great Britain, and I've never been particularly successful there. But I was curious about, how this book would be received there, and as of yet, it's been just rejected.
Oh. Well, I'm sure it's not going to continue that way. And so Coral, the character Coral, because of her caste in society, she is almost without a voice, and yet she is sort of this quietly strong woman that makes her way and seems to be a victim at almost every turn in some sense.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to write a book about somebody who was who had so many disadvantages and was so sort of unsure of who she was, and so because I wanted to write a book about somebody finding out who they were, and so I wanted her to start from this point where she was both very repressed and very sort of unaware.
Well, I don't want to give the plot away for our listeners and viewers, but there's a scene near the end of the book where there's been, kind of this, almost relationship. I guess there was a marriage that, didn't work out. And then near the end of the book, their paths sort of almost cross again. And there's this, on both sides, kind of this resignation or thinking of what might have been. It's so well done. I just, really to be congratulated for that.
Thank you. I mean, I think I was figuring out the book as I was writing it, and so for a long time I thought I wasn't sure how it was going to end, and I really had to write the book to find out how it ended and how those 2 people finally, came to terms with one another. It was something that I had to discover, not something that I knew.
Well, Peter, thank you so much. I enjoyed every single page. I think you should continue writing in this vein. It was just, as I said, it was a delight. Thank you so much.
Can you tell us real quick what's coming next? Do you have something in the works, or are you comfortable talking about that?
It always takes me a long time in between books, and I'm sort of thinking about some different ideas for a new book, but they're all very unformed and still sort of dreamlike, so it's hard to talk about them.
Well, we're going to go back and find the FSG copies of these other books and read all of them. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Join us next time on Furious Fiction.